There are stories about trains that never reach their stations, about passengers who vanish between stops' names, erased from every record. Most people think they're just urban legends, stories to scare night travelers. But tonight's tale comes from a man who swears he rode one. He says the train didn't stop, that the route didn't exist, and what he saw inside should never have been possible. This is his confession. You're about to board the last line. I don't even know if anyone will ever hear this. If you do, just please listen to the end before you decide I'm crazy. My name is Jack Thurston. I was a regional sales manager for a pharmaceutical company. That's what I used to be, at least. My life was airports, train cars, meetings, hotel rooms that all looked the same. There was comfort in the repetition. I thought I knew what monotony felt like. I didn't. Not until that night. It started as just another trip, Chicago to New York overnight. Amtrak Lake Shore Limited train. 48. I'd taken it a dozen times before. The seats smelled faintly of coffee and detergent, the same dull murmur of voices, the low rattle of the tracks beneath. I had my laptop open, spreadsheets glowing in that soft yellow light, while the conductor's muffled voice echoed over the intercom. Everything was normal, until it wasn't. 3 hours in, I looked at my watch and frowned. We should have reached Cleveland. I'd taken this road enough to know that by now, I should be seeing city lights flicker outside the window. Instead, there was nothing but open fields, wide and pale, under a swollen full moon. I pulled down the window shade, looked again. Still the same, no highways, no skyline, just trees. When the attendant passed, I flagged her down. "Excuse me," I said. "Aren't we supposed to hit Cleveland soon?" She blinked at me with glassy eyes. "Cleveland? Yes." I said, a little laugh in my voice. "You know, big city, middle of Ohio." Her expression didn't change. "I'm sorry, sir. I'm not familiar with that stop. Maybe you're thinking of another route." Before I could answer, she walked away quickly, like I'd made her uncomfortable. That should have been it, right? Some new hire who didn't know the schedule. But the longer I stared at the empty countryside, the more my stomach turned. The Wi-Fi was down. My phone had no signal. My watch, which I'd just checked, had stopped ticking. The seconds hand was stuck between 11 and 12. I got up and started walking. I figured maybe I could find the conductor, ask if we were delayed. But as I moved through the cars, something felt off. The air was heavy, like the train itself was holding its breath. A few passengers sat silently staring straight ahead, their faces expressionless, eyes unfocused. When I passed one older man, he didn't blink. Not once. I stopped in the dining car. There was one guy sitting alone, wrinkled hands wrapped around a cup of black coffee steam, curling like smoke. He looked up when I sat down across from him. "Excuse me," I said. "Do you know what's going on? We should have reached Cleveland hours ago." He squinted, eyes milky with age. Then he smiled. "You're new, ain't you?" I frowned. "New first time on this line. I mean, I've taken this train plenty of times." He chuckled, a dry, wheezing sound. "Not this one, you haven't. What are you talking about?" He leaned closer, and the smell of stale coffee and metal hit me. "This ain't no Chicago to New York line, son. This here's the last line." I laughed. It came out more nervous than I meant. "Right. And where exactly does this last line go?" He smiled wider, showing yellowed teeth. "Nowhere. Everywhere. Depends on what you're running from." I pushed my chair back. "Okay, you're out of your damn mind." He didn't stop me when I stood. He just said, "Name's Howard. I'll see you around, Jack." I froze mid-step. "I didn't tell you my name," I said. But he'd already gone back to sipping his coffee, staring out the window at the same moonlit fields sliding endlessly by. I hurried back to my seat, heart pounding. When I sat down, I noticed the woman across the aisle. Long dark hair, messy notebook in her lap. She was scribbling something furiously. "Excuse me," I said. "Do you know when we'll get to New York?" She didn't look up at first. When she did, her eyes were wild. "New York," she repeated like it was a joke. Then she laughed, a sharp, humorless sound. "There's no New York, honey. There's only the train." When she closed her notebook, "I've been on this thing. I don't even know how long. Days, weeks, maybe years. It doesn't stop. It just goes. Loops. Over and over." "You're insane," I said. She smiled thinly. "That's what I said at first. But tell me, have you seen anyone get off? Have we stopped once?" Her words hit harder than I expected. I hadn't seen anyone leave. Not once. She extended a trembling hand. "Lisa," she said. I shook it before I realized how cold she was. "Welcome aboard the Eternal Express." I left her and pushed forward through the cars, determined to find the conductor. Every door I passed led to another identical car. Same blue seats, same blank faces, same flickering lights. I kept walking. It felt like hours. My sense of direction broke down. Finally, I reached what should have been the engine car. But when I opened the door, it wasn't there. Just another passenger cabin. I turned dizzy and nearly screamed. The attendant was behind me again, the same one from earlier. But her face, her smile was stretched too wide, her eyes too dark. "Can I help you, sir? I need to speak to the conductor," I said. This train should have reached New York by now. Her grin never faltered. "I'm sorry, sir. There is no conductor." "What the hell do you mean? No conductor?" Her head tilted slightly, bones cracking with the motion. "There is no mistake either. You're exactly where you're supposed to be." Her eyes turned black. I stumbled backward, crashing through the next door, running without looking back. I reached the gap between cars and stopped, gasping. Cold air tore at my skin. The wind howled. I could see the next car just a few feet away, but the space between seemed to stretch like rubber, pulling farther every time I moved. Someone grabbed me from behind and yanked me back inside. I hit the floor hard, choking. Lisa stood over me, panting. "You idiot," she hissed. "You can't go out there." "Why?" I shouted. "What the hell is happening?" Her eyes darted toward the door. "Because that's where it gets you. The thing that runs this train. Trust me, you don't want to meet it." A low sound rolled through the walls, then part machine, part animal, deep and wet. The whole train vibrated. The lights flickered violently. For a moment, through the window, I swore I saw something moving, something massive and slick, dragging itself along the side of the train. Lisa clamped a hand over my mouth. "Don't look," she whispered. The sound passed. The light steadied. I couldn't breathe. Later, when things calmed down, we sat together in silence. Howard joined us sometimes. He'd shuffle in muttering half-remembered stories. Lisa kept a log pages of notes, drawings, names. She said the others, the quiet passengers, used to talk too, but they'd stopped after a while. "It gets to you," she said. "The sameness, the waiting for what I asked." She stared at the floor. The last stop. Days passed, or weeks. I don't know. The windows showed the same endless moonlight. I stopped checking my watch. Sometimes I heard whispering between the cars, or saw shadows moving where no one sat. That's when he appeared. The preacher. tall, wild-eyed beard, matted and clothes filthy. He walked through the aisles, shouting about sin, redemption, damnation. "We're all here for a reason," he bellowed. "We ride until we've paid what we owe." Most ignored him, but some listened. Desperate people cling to any explanation. Soon he had followers. And when the first sacrifice happened, I realized how far gone they were. They dragged a screaming man down the aisle. Howard tried to stop them, but was shoved aside. I followed them to the connecting door, my heart hammering. The preacher raised his hands. The unworthy must be cast out. Then they threw the man into the space between cars. For a second, nothing happened. Then came a wet, tearing sound, like flesh pulled apart. The door slammed shut. Silence followed. Lisa was crying. Howard looked older than ever. The preacher smiled. "The train moves again," he said softly. "The train is pleased." After that, no one slept. They started whispering prayers at night. More people vanished. We avoided the preacher's followers, moving from car to car when they got too close. One night, during my watch, I saw her. A little girl, maybe 7 or 8. Blonde hair in braids, wearing a pink dress that looked freshly ironed. She stood in the aisle, head tilted. "Hey," I said softly. "Are you lost?" She turned. Her eyes were pitch black. "No," she said in a voice that didn't belong to a child. "I know exactly where I am." "Do you?" I stepped back. "What are you?" She smiled too wide, showing small, sharp teeth. "I'm a passenger, just like you." "We're all passengers here, Jack. How do you know my name?" "I know everyone's name." Her voice dropped to a whisper. "I know why you're here." "I'm not supposed to be here," I yelled. She tilted her head, studying me. "You bought your ticket, didn't you?" I blinked, and she was gone. I didn't sleep after that. Then one night, the train slowed. For the first time since this nightmare began, I felt the rhythm falter. The familiar clack of wheels softened, the lights flickered. "Are we stopping?" Lisa asked, voice trembling. Even the preacher stopped ranting. Passengers stared at the windows, hope flickering in their eyes. Howard's voice was barely a whisper. "Don't get your hopes up. I've seen this before." The air grew cold. Our breath fogged. Then with a screech of metal, the train stopped completely. The doors slid open with a hiss. The preacher stepped forward, arms raised. "It's over. Salvation awaits." He stepped onto the platform and vanished. Something black and formless grabbed him, and in a blink, he was gone. Only blood remained seeping back toward the train. Screams erupted. Passengers ran, shoving each other, clawing at the doors. I lost sight of Lisa in the chaos, and then laughter. That same glass-shattering laugh. The little girl stood in the aisle again, watching the panic with calm amusement. "Welcome to the last stop, Jack," she said. "Are you ready to get off?" I stared at her. The world around us blurred. The sound of the train whistle wailed long and low, and everything inside me cracked. "No," I said. Her smile faltered. "Everyone gets off eventually." "Not like this," I said. "Not here." The car began to shake violently, lights exploding overhead. Shadows stretched across the floor, twisting like vines. Lisa appeared from the smoke, grabbing my arm. "Jack, we have to move." Howard stumbled behind her, the engine starting again. The little girl screamed. Her voice wasn't human. It was 1,000 voices at once. "You can't stay. You have to get off." I shoved past her, dragging Lisa and Howard toward the back of the train. The car's rattled windows cracking. Through them, I saw nothing. No landscape, no sky. Just a black void swallowing everything. We reached the final car. "What now?" Lisa shouted. We wait, I said, and we don't let go. The darkness pressed against the windows like a living thing. The air grew hot, then freezing. The lights went out. I felt Lisa's hand in mine, Howard's grip on my shoulder. Then light. Blinding warm real sunlight. The shaking stopped. Through the windows, I saw buildings, people, a station, Grand Central Terminal. The doors opened. For a long time, none of us moved. Then Howard laughed real joyous laughter and stumbled out onto the platform. Lisa followed, clutching my arm. We stepped into the sunlight. New York. We'd made it. Or at least, that's what I thought. As we stood there trembling, I felt a tug on my sleeve. A little girl was standing beside me. Blonde hair, pink dress, brown eyes this time. Excuse me, she said softly. Is this the train to Chicago? My mouth went dry. No, I said. Trust me, you don't want to get on it. She smiled politely and ran off toward her parents. Lisa squeezed my hand. It's over, she whispered. I wanted to believe her. I really did. But then I heard it faint, distant but unmistakable. The whistle. That same low, hollow sound. I turned back toward the train and froze. Through the window of the last car, I saw faces. Howard's face. Lisa's, staring back at me. Expressionless. And behind them, the little girl. She smiled. The door slid shut. The train began to move. As it disappeared into the tunnel, I heard her voice echoing in my head. Everyone gets off eventually, Jack. And that's why I'm recording this. Because I can still hear the tracks. Even now, sitting here in my apartment, the city humming outside, I can hear them. That steady rhythm under the floor. And sometimes when I close my eyes, I feel it moving again. The gentle sway of the train. The last line. Maybe the train never stopped. Maybe Jack never got off. Some say they've seen it, a silver carriage, gliding through the fog, near old tracks that were closed decades ago. No passengers, no conductor, just a single light in the darkness, and the echo of wheels that never end. If you ever hear that sound at night, don't follow it. Don't look for the light, because once you step on board, you never really get off. Thank you for listening to NightLore. If you enjoyed this story, leave the light on, because there's always another tale waiting in the dark.